In this video, I'll be talking about some of my favorite cartoons when I was growing up. Now, growing up, I primarily watched Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. I never really watched Disney Channel until the early 2000s. That's when I started watching more Disney Channel. Prior to then, it was always Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. And funny story is, on our cable provider back in the day, we never got Cartoon Network. You had to pay for it extra for some reason. Up until I was about 7 or 8, that's when they really made Cartoon Network free on my cable provider. I really don't know if that's for all cable providers, but that's how our cable provider worked. And I really didn't watch a lot of Saturday morning cartoons because there was really no reason for me to watch them when I had cable already. So that's why I really didn't watch a lot of Saturday morning cartoons. I may have turned on Saturday morning cartoons a little bit, but for the majority of the time it was Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. I did also have this network on my subscription, or our subscription. It was called Boomerang, and basically what Boomerang is this network. I don't know if it's actually still around, but Boomerang used to show old cartoons like Tom and Jerry, the Jetsons, Bugs Bunny, the Flintstones, things like that. I don't know if it's still around, and I do think that Boomerang used to be a part of Cartoon Network, so it was kind of conjoined with Cartoon Network. I'm not sure if that's totally true, but that's what I think, because I remember back in the day when I used to watch Cartoon Network, they would always have these ads for Boomerang, and that's how I found out about Boomerang, and I begged my parents back in the day to get Boomerang, so we got Boomerang, and it was amazing, but I don't think they actually even around anymore. I know Cartoon Network's still around, but Boomerang, I don't know if it's still around. So anyway, let's get started. Now, starting off with number one of my favorite shows back in the day on Nickelodeon, you guessed it, it had to be the Rugrats. Rugrats was one of the best shows Nickelodeon ever had. It was about a bunch of little kids going on adventures and stuff like that. I can't remember any of their names, but I think one of the kids with glasses was like Chucky or something. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't watched it since I was a kid. But that show used to be awesome back in the day. If you did not know what the Rugrats were, you do not know what you've been missing back in the day. That was an awesome show. And then Nickelodeon, after that, a couple of years, like maybe 5 or 6 years after that, they decided to do like Rugrats All Grown Up. And Rugrats All Grown Up was actually not really good, in my opinion. I didn't like it as much as the original Rugrats. Rugrats All Grown Up was kind of weird. When I got older, I didn't really care for the show. It was kind of weird and clunky, or just weird in general for me. So I never really watched Rugrats All Grown Up. I tried a couple of times because I knew I might like it after watching Rugrats, which was so awesome. But transitioning into them being grown-ups was just so weird and so odd to me. I just couldn't really watch it, so I never watched it. Another show back in the day that was awesome had to be Hey Arnold. If you ever seen this show called Hey Arnold, it was a freaking awesome show. It's basically about this kid that goes to school and he has like a football head, if you guys remember that. And it's just about him going to school and his life, basically. That's the main character, Arnold, and yeah, it was a pretty awesome show. And this girl in there called Helga, I think, would always make fun of him and stuff like that, but in reality she was actually in love with Hey Arnold or something like that. It was a freaking awesome show. Another show on Nickelodeon that I loved as well, which was really, really awesome, was a show about these 4 kids. I can't remember the name, but you all may remember it. It was these 4 kids that would go like skateboarding and doing all these sports activities like surfing, skateboarding, rollerblading, things like that. It's called Rocket Power. Yeah, that show was freaking awesome back in the day. I did recently watch old videos of Rocket Power, and Rocket Power is not the same as it used to be. I guess I'm more older, and the problem with it is now going back and trying to watch Rocket Power is the fact that the voices sound odd to me. It's not the animation or the characters, it's just the voices. The voices don't match the characters for me for some reason right now. So I probably couldn't rewatch that show in particular because there's just too much going on with that show that I wouldn't watch it because of the voices. That's the main problem with the show. Another show I kind of liked, but it wasn't my priority. It was an okay show. It was called The Wild Thornberrys. It was about this little girl that can talk to animals, and she had like a little monkey, I think, as a pet or something, and they would go on these different adventures. I don't really remember a lot about The Wild Thornberrys because growing up I didn't really care for that show, but it was an okay show, just not really something I would watch, honestly. Now, moving on to Cartoon Network. They did have a lot of shows I actually liked. The #1 show on there, which I loved as a kid, was Powerpuff Girls. I know you might make fun of me, but Powerpuff Girls was awesome back in the day. It was about these 3 superheroes, or these 3 like power girls that had powers, and they tried to save the city, or save everyone from destruction and all that. Kind of like superheroes. It was Bubbles, Blossom, and Buttercup, and they had this professor that actually turned them like into powerful girls by accident, so then they became to save the day. And they always had this arch nemesis called Mojo Jojo, if you remember, and that show was awesome back in the day. That was one of my favorite shows on Cartoon Network. Another one which I really love, and it used to be on Netflix a couple months ago, or a couple of years ago. It was Billy and Mandy, The Adventures of Billy and Mandy. It was about these 2 kids that would always go on like adventures, but they also had like a friend, the Grim Reaper, and it was just a freaking awesome show. I can't remember a lot about this show, but I remember it was awesome back in the day, and it was always funny. And yeah. Another show they had on there, which I kind of liked, was Johnny Bravo. It was kind of like this guy, like I guess Elvis Presley. I would more relate him to Elvis Presley, and he would always talk like in this accent, and he had like cool hair, and he did some kind of adventures. I can't remember much about it, but I know I liked it as a kid. And anyway, those are just some of my favorite childhood cartoons. And anyway, peace out. I'll see you guys later in my next video. I'm out.